Thank you.
Next speaker, Zennie Abraham. You're allowed to speak.
Thank you very much, and thank you, council member. My vice mayor, just want to make sure if I'm able to present the section, because there's some adjustments that I had to make to clear up some maladies.
Thank you. Hang on, we're just going to have the staff screen share the document. They're
Thank you.
Pulling that up, so it's the one after that.
Thank you.
There we go. Oops. And there it is. That's
Thank
the
you.
one. Okay.
Also, members of the public, this is available at zenniereport.com. It is the featured post, and I will begin with this. The presentation before the Joint Powers Authority here is written to expand on the October 15th, 2023 Oakland Coliseum JPA Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District discussion. It presents a step-by-step process drawn primarily from EIFD documents for San Jose, Santa Rosa, Sacramento, as well as California EIFD legislation, specifically SB 628 Beal, 2015, SB 293 Skinner, 2019, AB 464 Mullen, 2021, and AB 336 Repluta, 2021. This presentation is also the first document of its kind to present a step-by-step process and takes AB 464 Mullen, 2021 into account. AB 464 Mullen allows the use of tax increment financing revenue to finance programs to help small businesses in the EIFD to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, nonprofit community facilities, and projects deemed of community-wide significance, depending on how the infrastructure financing plan is written. Regarding tax increment financing, or TIF, this presentation was also based on a calculation process that mates tax increment financing revenue with municipal bond sizing. The tax increment financing revenue stream and debt coverage ratio determine the size of the bond to be issued. The Public Financing Authority can then determine what projects can, quote, fit, unquote, into that revenue envelope as a prelude to the creation of the Infrastructure Financing Plan, or IFP, and the bond issue or bond issues. California EIFD law established in 2014, as you know, the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, or EIFD, was established in 2014 by California Senator Jim Beal and signed into law by California Governor Jerry Brown. It is designed to reintroduce tax increment financing to California municipalities to be used as a tool to catalyze the creation of various types of development. This document points to a specific law, AB 336 from 2021, which allows members of a Joint Powers Authority to sit on the Public Financing Authority of Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. In other words, for the organization to be both JPA and EIFD. It is also based on Section 53398.51 of the California Code, and in the following way. If a JPA decides to establish an EIFD, then Section 398.51 of the California Code says it must first create a public financing authority containing its own governing board. California state law is more specific about the Public Financing Authority board's structure than that for a Joint Powers Authority. Assuming that the two or more of the public agencies making up the JPA wishing to create the EIFD themselves have taxation power, then the Public Financing Authority's board must be composed of a majority of the governing legislative bodies, city council, county boards, supervisors, and etc. of every participating government. That is, a majority of the members of the legislative body of the cities, counties, and special districts comprising the board must also serve on the Public Financing Authority, and it is uncompensated service, though reimbursement is allowed. This document, this post here at zenniereport.com as well, lays the groundwork for the creation of the Oakland Alameda County JPA EIFD. Basically, the Public Financing Authority is the governing body of the EIFD as specifically described within the JPA. Here are the steps. 1. Formation team consists of economic development representative, legal counsel, finance advisor, tax increment financing consultant, Oakland Coliseum JPA executive director, manager, city, county, and business representative, and the business task force advisory group that was discussed earlier. Step 2, formation teamwork. Define, refine boundaries. 2, develop preliminary priority funding cost estimate. 3,
Next slide, please.
determine bond size through the chair. I can continue if you wish.
Yep, please continue.
Thank you. Calculate tax increment revenue from EIFD boundary. 5, determine size of bond issue debt service based on tax increment finance revenue and debt coverage ratio and bond interest rates. 6, size preliminary priority funding project cost estimate with respect to tax increment financing revenue. 7, identify funding sources in addition to tax increment. Step 3, conduct outreach. Elected officials, other taxing entities, affected residents and property owners. Explore potential projects to be funded by the EIFD that would entice participation of the county or other taxing agencies. 6, educate stakeholders about the EIFD, not a new tax, not a lien on property, for example. 6, identify property owners who would advocate for formation. And here is where the business advisor, advocacy group or sports advocacy group, as you may call it, helps. Step 4, start public financing authority. 1, determine who sits on the public financing authority. 2, assemble resolution of intention and public financing authority of formation documents based on the Santa Rosa model. A, staff report on EIFD formation to City Council. B, resolution of intention, approve boundaries and list of improvements and projects for City Council vote. C, public financing authority resolution including infrastructure financing plan for City Council vote. D, City Council votes on B and C as I described, which are, of course, the resolution of intention, the public financing authority resolution, which establishes the public financing authority. Board of Supervisors and City Council each adopt resolutions approving the infrastructure financing plan. Then there's a statement of boundary change filed by Public Financing Authority with the California State Board of Equalization. There's no election required unless 25% of property owners protest at the third Public Financing Authority hearing. An enhanced infrastructure financing district is abandoned if over 50% of property owners protest the formation. The JPA approves the infrastructure financing plan by resolution as the next step. And then the other step after that is the Public Financing Authority adopts the infrastructure financing plan and approves the resolution of formation, establishing the EIFD as at the third public hearing. The Public Financing Authority files a, quote, statement of boundary change, unquote, with the California Board of Equalization. Note, unlike old redevelopment districts that utilize tax increment financing, there's no blighted area requirement to establish an EIFD. Step 7, EIFD bonds. Who? The Public Financing Authority makes the decision to sell bonds. When? Public Financing Authority may decide to sell bonds based on tax increment revenue versus project cost needs as expressed in the infrastructure financing plan. The minimum debt coverage ratio for the bond issue would be 125%. Note, minimum. Now, bonds cannot be sold until predetermined level of tax increment is generated that's sufficient to meet annual bond debt service. But tax increment revenue can be collected from the start of establishment of the EIFD and the Public Financing Authority. Tax increment revenue can also be collected on a pay-as-you-go basis. A follow-up on EIFDs and pay-as-you-go TIF revenue collection. A follow-up is important here. Prior to 2017, EIFDs were not able to collect tax increment revenue on a pay-as-you-go basis. But after 2017 and the amendment for infrastructure financing plan legislation, TIF revenue could be collected on a pay-as-you-go basis as long as it was described in the infrastructure financing plan. For example, the infrastructure financing plan for the Samoa Peninsula Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, released in 2002, does just that. I won't bother reading that entire paragraph there. I will skip over that, but that makes the point is made there. And then I will go down to read this, simply this, that a note here is very important to understand that in October of 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 116, authorized by Assemblymember Phil Ting, which removes the requirement for enhanced infrastructure financing districts to receive voter approval prior to issuing bonds. The California organization CalEd championed this under SB 128 Beal, and I will continue. So if you see the document online this is vitally important to those who are doing research. If you see this document called Resource Guide to EIFDs by the California Community and Economic Development Association and dated February 2016, do not use it because it has the old information regarding pay go and it says you can't do it. That is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Now, how bonds are secured is by only tax increment revenue generated within the EIFD, not by the city's general fund. Note, proceeds may be used to fund any public improvement with a useful life of 15 years or more that provides community benefit. Step 8, EIFD eligible public improvements. And this gets to what Vice Mayor Kaplan was saying. Roads, highways, streetscapes, parking facilities, and transit facilities, affordable housing, small businesses impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, internet access services, childcare facilities, libraries, parks, open space and recreational facilities, improvements related to fighting climate change, brownfield restoration and other environmental mitigation, transit priority facilities, sewer, reclamation and water facilities, solid waste facilities, flood control facilities, retention bases, and drainage channels. Following those steps will result in an Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority JPA EIFD. It will be an existing procedural first step toward the eventual reinvestment wave it will create in Oakland, starting with the Coliseum area in East Oakland. And I thank you very much for your time and particularly your allowance on this, Vice Mayor Kaplan and Supervisor Miley.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And again, this is in your packet for those who want to read it more closely. Thank you. That was super helpful. Will require a vote of the county supervisors and a vote of the city council, but particularly given the importance of making sure that we are planning for a vibrant and active future for this large public site, and that we have here the opportunity for city leadership and county leadership and community leadership to come together. I think this is a really important and useful conversation. Let me just add, in terms of the multiple sites, we're certainly very thankful for the state law that allows us to make an EIFD of multiple separate sites. And one of the ways we can leverage that here is that, so the city, for example, is looking for new and better locations for the facilities that are currently at 7th and Broadway, where we have an old police administration building, we need a new crime lab and other new facilities. Those new facilities could be built here. Then the site of that old building can also be redeveloped, can become mixed use with housing and retail and commercial. So we're also looking at including a major mixed use project that is immediately adjacent to the West Oakland BART station as part of this project. And so we have the capacity to create thousands of units of housing as well as developing new government functions. We know the county is researching ways to relocate and revitalize some of their public buildings that could be built here, which also would serve to improve access for people in East Oakland and the surrounding area to be able to get access to those needed services. And this can include building, as has been pointed out, these government buildings, whether it's crime lab, courthouse, other government facilities, but also childcare, affordable housing, other community activities, as well as things that improve pedestrian access, transit access, and more. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity for us to undertake. I have sent the documents to the city attorney. The sample county resolution is also in this packet. So I think I heard from our county leaders that you'll follow up in terms of any next steps needed for the county attorneys to review and double check these. As Zennie Abraham pointed out, who's been following these issues for many years, the law around what's allowed has changed several times in the last few years. So we did provide drafts that should comply with that, but we do, of course, want the legal teams at the city and the county to go through this and report back so that we make sure that anything we move forward has all of the latest changes in law incorporated into that. And of course, here at the Coliseum, we have not only the JPA property, we also have the Malibu property that abuts us. We have a bunch of properties along San Leandro that abut us, all of which could be incorporated into an EIFD to allow for broader revitalization. So thank you so much for giving the time and attention to this. And it would be my hope and intention, once legal gets a chance to look at it, and we've also circling back with the staff on some of the facilities that would be included, that we could bring something back which has any revisions needed, so that anything that would go to the city and the county would have those latest revisions. And then let me see if there's any further comments or questions from the group here.
Commissioner Halbert has his hand raised.
Commissioner Halbert.
Yes, thank you, Chair Kaplan. I think this is a great opportunity before us. I note that the county and the city staff, I believe, have already gone through a bit of an exercise to get up to speed on the latest as it regards to EIFD, because we looked into this with the Howard Terminal site. One thing that I recommended at that time, it did not happen, and I believe things could have gone quicker or smoother or more productively, would be to have an ad hoc committee. And I'm going to recommend that we think about that. You take back to your city council, I'll take back to the board, creating a joint committee between the JPA is the JPA. It's great. We have a partnership with members of the council on it, members of the board on it. But I believe that we need to have a joint liaison committee, 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, 2 members of the county city council with their staff, all in the room at the same time. Whether it's a meeting that's duly noticed or a series of meetings that's duly noticed, or if we can do it as an ad hoc committee that does not have to be duly noticed and just meet temporarily. Doesn't matter how we do it. But I note that as we talk about the Malibu site, the practice facility in Alameda, this EIFD project, that we get a lot of he said, she said, yes it is, no it isn't. I would like the city council, the supervisors, both staffs, all inclusive, to be in one room at the same time to discuss this. I'll take what we've talked about today back to the board, back to our county council. We'll bring as many resources and knowledge as we can, but if we're not all in the room at the same time, I don't think anything will get done. So I don't mean to sound pessimistic. Of course things will get done, but it may not get done as efficiently or effectively as we would want it to be. This is going to require clear direction, resolve, and unanimity among our boards and our staff. So that's what I would recommend, and I'll stop there and see what others think. But I do believe that we have to get in the room at the same time with everybody.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Halbert. I think that is a brilliant idea. Are you volunteering to be on this ad hoc meeting?
You know that I always do what I'm asked to do, so I would do that if needed. I would extend the offer to others if they prefer, but sure.
Thank you. No, I think that's a very good idea, and certainly the more that our teams are collaborating, the more effective we will be on the whole range of issues. Supervisor Miley, would you like to be part of such a thing? Supervisor Miley on the line?
We've lost.
Okay,
Lost him.
he's lost his connection. Okay, but I do think that's an excellent suggestion, and since we do have our city administrator in the room, I will ask that if we could follow up on at least initially setting up a non-Brown Act group, so less than a quorum of anybody that could meet informally to talk through the topics, which I'm happy to work with you on. And we've heard at least one supervisor say yes, and I believe Supervisor Miley is interested too. He just had a connection problem, but we should contact him as well for the follow-up. Commissioner Baker.
Yes, thank you, commissioners, and everyone that's waited on this important matter. It sounds like there's the increments that will come from the EIFD. It sounds like there's the ASCG group who are in an exclusive negotiating agreement to become partial landowners. What I'd like to see is, and not necessarily, next month, but certainly in a certain sense of urgency, is what kind of conversations are happening with the large tenants, and how will this affect potential negotiations with respect to the tax increments that will be leveraged. And Mr. Dones mentioned leverage with those ongoing negotiations, whether those are large tenants such as a new team or government entities, et cetera. Where are they in this, right? As they are negotiating long-term leases and understanding how that money will be leveraged for those negotiations. I'd like to see a little bit more visibility into those negotiations or discussions as they're taking place, whether that's with a new team or whether that's with large potential tenants, just so we can understand what their ask might be as early as possible, so that there's no sort of aha or, hey, we already made this decision and now this is going to trip up a potential bid. So we just ask that be kind of the handshake agreement, that we get to see those opportunities as early as possible.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I believe Commissioner Halbert's hand is up.
No, I just forgot to take it down. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. No, this is super helpful, and absolutely the interrelationship between the operating tenants and the funding. And of course, we would note that there's an awful lot of federal infrastructure money being given out right now. So when we talk about leveraging, that if we have an actual plan and some local funding to serve as local match, we should be able to attract significant funding. I would also note that this Coliseum site is on BART, is on Amtrak, is on an airport connector, is on a freeway, is on multiple AC Transit bus lines, and is a regionally designated priority development area. That also applies to the part of West Oakland BART station area project that we were talking about including, is also on all of these various transit services, as well as some of the other sites. So we have a great potential to bring that collaboration and bring that leveraging.
Hey, Chair Kaplan, I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt. Can I make one more comment?
Yes, sir.
If I just could register my thoughts here, is that because this is so centrally located, as you reminded me, it's on a transit corridor, easily accessible by our community's youth. And as I'm looking through the documents that we have, great opportunities for open space, for mixed use, for affordable housing, for childcare. Our youth need a place to go and just be a kid. If we could add rec space, almost like the Boys and Girls Club kind of thing, where they could be safe, where they could have a good time, not a shopping mall, but a place to be a kid. I would love for that to be included in this. And I'll just say that of all the things that I hope we provide, I would want to add something for our, teens through young adult age, for them to hang out. And so I know that's part of the spirit. I just would like to see it called out in particular for our youth. So thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I think that's wonderful that in addition to naming recreation broadly, that we should explicitly name facilities for youth and young people as part of what would be included. So thank you for that. And see, that this kind of collaboration is part of the advantage of being here, where we have all the bodies together. Thank you, Commissioner Supervisor Hubbard. Okay, so I think Commissioner Miley's reconnection has worked. No, still not working. Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to really appreciate Supervisor Miley had suggested that we bring the EIFD discussion to this body, because there was this question about how to get the city and county talking together. So I think that was a great suggestion. So thank you, Supervisor Miley, for that. And I believe that concludes the items. And so that brings us to the adjournment of our meeting and an opportunity to name any future topics. We've already talked about the advisory board coming back. We will also be coming back to talk about plans for the future of this facility, soccer at the future of this facility. I want to note the public speaker we had at the beginning talking about bringing their soccer teams here. And the last thing I will just note that will be coming back is we are working on our cranes and our bleachers and testing them and seeing about having them be functional to be able to be utilized. So we will be able to discuss that further in the future. And just double checking, any other hands are up in the Zoom?
There is one public speaker with their hand raised. Mr. Abraham, would you like for him to speak?
Okay, 2 minutes.
Mr. Abraham, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Mosen and Vice Mayor. Just a clarification. The EIFD law allows for the law enabling legislation for it allows for the JPA to create its own EIFD, but the important component is the Public Financing Authority because that's really the governing body. And I emphasize that because the person who's now our mayor, Mayor Tao, when she was running, had a meeting with me regarding how all of this works because she wanted to establish a citywide EIFD program. Now, fine, but I caution because given the provision regarding opposition and property owners, we could bite off too much of it very quickly rather than focusing on one at a time. We had discussed the need for the JPA to survive the bond issues when they are expired, if you will, would show its end. But we have a problem in sea level rise that, among others, I think more than anybody else, Zachary Wasserman has pointed to, we've done nothing about, and yet the Coliseum JPA is in the best position to deal with it, is going to have to deal with it for any development that happens on our grounds, let alone at the nearby Oakland Airport Business Park. So I really encourage everyone to think about the configuration of the JPA running the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District and being the Public Financing Authority rather than the City Council. The same multiple zone provisions are in place as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's all hands.
That is all the hands.
Thank you all so much for your time and your attention and your thoughtfulness and your work to serve the community. With that, we are adjourned.